I found this book about rainforests that really just ties in a lot of the things we've been talking about. Um, it's quite a long book. It's a chapter book. It's in English. And I thought that what I would do to whet your appetites is I would read the first chapter for you. And if you like it, you can continue. This is something you can do if you want to. There is nothing saying you have to do it. It's just something I thought you might like to do. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll get reading. And I hope you enjoy this. Okay, so this book is called Rainforest Calling, and if we just read the back of it, so imagine that this book has been like opened up, and so you've got the front and the back. It's from Twinkle, which you guys know already. And it says, when Daisy's teacher gives her special permission to log on to webcams in South America and learn all about the rainforest, she knows that she's been offered a once-in-a-lifetime experience. What she doesn't expect is an unlikely video caller with a very serious problem. Follow Pedro the Patu as he explores each layer of the Amazon rainforest. Can he get through to the humans who are destroying his home before it's too late? Will Daisy answer the animal's cry to help? The rainforest is calling. So as we read this, I want you to think about things like biomes that we've looked at. We also talked about different areas of the world that have been affected by climate change. We also have looked at things that have had huge impacts on nature, for instance, the fires in Australia, and we talked about the koalas and all those sorts of things. So think about these as you read the story, but I also just want you to really enjoy having something in English that really just brings about the subject we've been looking at. So as we first start, I just love what this looks like. This is beautiful, like Amazon rainforest, and it is beautiful. The birds, the flowers, the animals. We even have an orangutan here. We have a sloth in the tree. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so you can see that we've got different days, and each day there's like a journal section, and then also there's just some more information for each. So in essence, we've got March the 24th, Monday, and that's where we're going to start our reading. Okay, Daisy Field, 4JC Rainforest Journal. 9:50. I wonder if the person who gave the rainforest its name had ever actually been there. Surely, if they had, they'd have called it the plant forest instead. Mrs. Curtis, my teacher, told us that more than 2/3 of the world's plant species live in a rainforest environment. That's more than 80,000 different plants. There's no way that I'm telling my Grandma Wilkins that. She'd be on the first plane to Brazil with her lucky gardening gloves because she really loves plants. Do you know, she once told me that she might love plants even more than she loves my mum. Don't worry, I haven't told my mum yet that. That's one of the reasons why I volunteered for this project, so that I could tell my grandma about all the plants. Mrs. Curtis wanted one of us to spend a whole week looking at some webcams in the Amazonian rainforest. I put my hand straight up. My best friend Millie said that the last time she'd seen anything move as fast as my arm was when someone told her, daft brother, that the bank was giving away free money. Who wouldn't volunteer to spend the whole week looking at the Amazon? I think that I'd be really good at spotting all the different plants and animals. As soon as Mrs. Curtis looked at me, I knew that I hadn't been picked. She had the same expression on her face that she uses to tell us that we've got a maths question wrong, and she said, maybe next time, Daisy. Jack Walters got picked instead, but he changed his mind when he found out that we're only allowed to look at the webcams during our breaks and at lunchtime. He said that there was no way that he was going to miss playing football in the playground. So Mrs. Curtis ended up choosing me anyway. I don't mind having to do normal lessons. I got 9 out of 10 on my spelling last week. Still, can't spell rhinoceros, though. Mrs. Curtis said that I have to write a journal entry to tell the rest of the class what I've seen on the webcams. I haven't written a journal before. The only thing I write at home are lists of my favorite songs and the things I want for Christmas. But Mrs. Curtis said not to worry and to just write as I like to speak. I think that should make it easier. A green conversation charity set the webcams up a few years ago. I'm not actually sure what a green conversation is, or a red or yellow or pink conversation either. And when Mrs. Curtis logged on with her laptop, she showed me that we can move the webcams with the arrows on the keyboard. If I want to move left or right, up or down, I just press the arrows. I can even move from camera to camera so that I can explore each layer of the rainforest. Mrs. Curtis also said that the Amazon rainforest is over 5,000 miles away from our school, yet I can still move the lens in any direction I want. Sometimes technology is amazing. I'd love to spend all my time looking for the monkeys or even a Bigfoot. My dad says scientists think that there are still over 5 million animal species waiting to be discovered in the world, and most of those probably live in the rainforest. He wants me to keep my eyes peeled for a Bigfoot. He says, Daisy, that'll be like winning the lottery. My dad thinks that he knows lots about the rainforest. I think that he might have read the same books as Mrs. Curtis because they both said that lots of what we all take for granted comes from the rainforest. Those beans that people use to make chocolates come from there, and pineapples too, plus the ginger that goes into yummy biscuits, even rubber for the soles of my trainers. Okay, so here you can see the pictures. Here are the cocoa beans and the pineapples, and we have got rubber and ginger and other like medicines that come from the rainforest. Millie says that her uncle has an important job at the City Museum, and he reckons that more than 25%, that's a quarter, of all medicines use plants from the rainforest. So if you stay up too late and have a headache or get an iffy tummy after you've eaten one of your dad's homemade curries, the medicine that you are given could be made from rainforest plants. How amazing is that? What I'd really like to find, though, is a new kind of flower. Maybe one of those beautiful orchids. When you find something new like that, those clever people you see on the documentary channels sometimes let you name them. I'd call the Wilkins orchid after Grandma Wilkins. That would make her very important, and she tells me that she's always wanted to be a VIP. Mrs. Curtis wants me to visit one of the 4 layers of the rainforest each day. So because it's Monday today, I'll log onto the Conversation Charities webcam in the emergent layer during lunchtime break. That's the top part of the rainforest, where you can see all the clouds that are formed when water vapor rises from the forest. By the way, I realized that it is not a conversation charity at all. It is a conservation charity. Silly me. Tomorrow, I'll check out the canopy layer. I can't wait for that because the charity website says that's where most of the orchids are. Howler monkeys live there too. So imagine if I saw or heard one of those. Jack Walters says that a howler monkey's cry is so loud it can be heard over 5 kilometers away. He makes things up though, so I take everything he says with a pinch of salt. After that, I'll look at the understory, and then on Thursday, I'll explore the forest floor. Mrs. Curtis has said that on Friday, I can look at whatever I want. So that's when I'll look for an orchid and maybe Dad's Bigfoot too. I have to keep notes about what I see. That's why I'm writing these journal entries. There are going to be my observations, and then I've got to share the highlights in a talk to the whole class next week. I asked Mum what highlights are, but she said that the only highlights she knows about are the blonde ones that she puts in my Aunt Tanya's hair every month. Anyway, Mrs. Curtis said that if my rainforest talk is really good, she'll ask our head teacher, Mrs. Smeaton, if I can present it in assembly. Miss Smeaton gives out badges to children who take part in assemblies, and I've always wanted one of those. Millie will be so jealous. Okay, that's it for now. We've got another spelling test in 5 minutes. I hope that Mrs. Curtis doesn't ask me to spell hippopotamus. How am I supposed to know how to spell exaggerate? I can't even say it properly. Never mind write it. Still, 8 out of 10 is way better than Jack Walters. He only got 6 of his words right, and Mrs. Curtis told him that he should definitely know how to spell disastrous after his penalty miss in that football semi-final last week. Mrs. Curtis thinks that Jack might have lost his sense of humor at the same time as the team lost that match. It's lunchtime now, and Jack is in the playground, sulking. I bet he wishes that he had turned down the chance to use the rainforest webcams now. They're amazing. I've just finished looking at the emergent layer. It's even higher than that huge ride I went on with Millie in Blackpool last summer. Last week, Mrs. Curtis told us that the treetops in the emergent layer can be over 70 meters high. Dad says that's over 200 feet. But what if the person measuring it has really small feet? Or huge ones? I don't really understand Dad's old-fashioned measurements. Anyway, it was really high up and I felt dizzy, even though I never left my chair. The camera must have been strapped to one of those massive Brazil nut trees. They're the highest trees in the forest, and I had a view across the entire canopy. It's so incredible to see a place that hasn't been changed by humans. Mrs. Curtis says that the area I'm looking at is a protected part of the forest, and there is no trace of humans for miles and miles. Parts of the forest, like these, are protected so that no one touches them, and they stay as perfectly natural environments for the plants and animals underneath the trees. I found out that there are rainforests all over the world, and that these webcams are in the Brazilian part of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon is the biggest rainforest in the world and actually stretches into 9 countries. 9! As well as Brazil, there's also Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. That's a lot of countries. Wow. I read somewhere that the Amazon rainforest stretches for more than 5 million square kilometers. That's a lot of kilometers. But why are they square? That's wrong with round kilometers or even triangle-shaped ones. I'll have to ask Mrs. Curtis about that. What's even more mind-blowing is the fact that the rainforest used to be even bigger. Bloggers have chopped down 3/4 of a million kilometers in just 40 years. No, wait, it's loggers, not bloggers. These loggers chop down the trees and sell the wood. Then, instead of planting more trees, they just dig up the land for growing crops or farming cattle. I think that's called deforestation. There is a page on the charity website. They have a lot of web pages which talk about how the local people make money and get jobs and how logging is important for the local economy. I think that's something to do with money. Do you know what's really strange? The charity's first camera is so high up that the treetops didn't look like they belonged to a forest at all. It's really windy up there, and the thick branches and leaves sway and ripple like waves in a huge green sea. I wonder if the parrots and monkeys sometimes feel more like fish. It's really wet up there too, which you'd expect from a rainforest, I suppose. Clouds hang so close to the treetops that it feels like you could reach out and grab a handful of fluffiness. The wind whooshes them past so fast that sometimes it's more like watching giant sheep racing each other. At school, we learnt about the water cycle. Mrs. Curtis says that water vapor condenses when it gets cooler. This is how we get rain. The hot forest makes the water vapor rise, and the cool river air makes it fall down again as rain. It's so simple and yet so clever. I liked it when the sun shone through the clouds. The leaves all seemed to be coated in some kind of wax. It looked like somebody had slapped on some of that suntan oil that my Auntie Sonia uses out in the garden. So I wonder if it helps to protect the leaves from the strong sun too. They look so slippery. I reckon that the insects could probably use them as skating rinks. When they caught the sunlight, they glistened even brighter than Grandma Wilkins' opal earrings. I should have brought my sunglasses. I saw some amazing bluebirds. I remember seeing a photo on the charity website, and it said that they were called cottingers. I spotted parrots too, macaws, I think. They were all perched in the treetops, and if you didn't know that they were birds, you'd easily think that the clouds had been raining multicolored paint. Mrs. Curtis likes howler monkeys, but I didn't see any of those. I'm sure that I heard one though. The webcam picks up rainforest noises, and that monkey makes what my granddad would call a right racket. The poor things sound like they're gargling with rusty nails, and they're so loud. In fact, the only person I know who can shout as loud as a howler monkey is Mr. Patterson, our caretaker. Now, he'd give them a proper run for their money. 12:52 p.m. Mrs. Curtis told me that I have to make a separate journal entry every time I leave the webcam and then log back on. I asked her if that meant even when I pop to the bathroom, and she said yes. I only went for some tissue to blow my nose with, but she said that I had to write my journals as if I were a real scientist, and that means accurately recording my time. I love playing around with the webcam. I found out that I can use the scroll wheel on the mouse to zoom in as well. So I zoomed in a lot. I'm glad I did too, because among the trillions of tropical leaves, I found some really beautiful orchids. I can see why Grandma Wilkins likes orchids as much as she does. They're so colorful, and the petals have amazing patterns like a kaleidoscope. Orchids really like it up in the emergent layer because there's so much sunshine. Grandma says that some have roots that don't even need soil. They can actually drink moisture from the air. I never realized that plants could be so clever. Oh, I nearly forgot. I also saw something a bit strange. It was a bird, but not one of the parrots. I didn't see it at first. It was really well disguised, and I thought it was just a broken tree branch. In fact, it was only when it opened its big yellow goggle eyes that I spotted it, and I had to zoom in to get a good view. Poor thing, it's really ugly and sort of like a cross between a tawny owl, the one with the nice brown and white feathers, and a car with the big headlamps. Its eyes are so huge that it looks startled all the time, as if one of the other animals has just jumped out from behind a big leaf and shouted, "Boo!" Oh, and the poor thing's little, thin beak looks squashed as if it's been caught in a set of lift doors. I bet it's really jealous of the parrots because its feathers aren't colorful at all. But what makes this funny thing really seem really odd is its mouth. I say it belongs on a frog, not a bird, and it seems to be permanently turned down in a sad frown. You should see it when it opens its beak, though. That funny bird's mouth is almost wider than its entire face. The internet is great for finding out about stuff. So I did an image search and found out that the bird is actually called a patoo. Now I understand why I didn't see it at first. It's really good at hiding. What's unusual about the patoo on my screen is its markings. The darker feathers on its chest make a sort of lopsided heart shaped. These birds normally only come out at night. Maybe that's why its goggle eyes are so big, so it can see in the dark. I wonder why it was still awake. Maybe it's scared, or looking for something, or perhaps it stayed up past its bedtime to talk to one of those colorful macaws. Actually, one of the birds with the bright tail feathers seemed to be arguing with the patoo. The macaw was yakking and squawking away, and the patoo was answering back. They were making a real din. It's funny because you'd hope that a bird with such quirky looks would have a great singing voice, like a lovely robin or a nightingale, but it definitely doesn't. In fact, it was more of a wail than a chirp. Oh! It's a good job that there are no mirrors in the rainforest, because then it really would have a reason to feel sorry for itself. I probably won't see that poor patoo again. I'm visiting the canopy layer tomorrow, and if I'm really lucky, I might get to see a sloth. Everyone loves sloths. Daisy's emergent checklist. Macaws, tick. Cottingers, tick. Capuchin monkeys, tick. New type of orchid, no tick. Patoo, tick. Hey, Rodrigo, my feathered friend. I think the strange one-eyed thing might be looking at you. Come and see. Me and my big, silly beak. A clever patoo like me should have known better. Rodrigo is a macaw, and no one in the whole forest likes being looked at more than macaws do. Show-offs. You see, One Eye, my colorful friend, doesn't care that you are clinging to our trees and staring at us. Rodrigo just thinks it's another reason for me to pose and show off his bright feathers. Trust me, One Eye, he certainly does not need another reason. Do you think they like my feathers, Pedro? He squawks. Which do you think they like best, eh? Yellow or maybe blue? Sometimes I think that Rodrigo likes himself way, way too much. Rodrigo, nobody is impressed by your feathers. Lots of birds around here have colorful feathers. The whole forest has already seen your bottom far too many times, okay? Take my word for it, my new one-eyed compadre. No patoo wants to see a macaw's booty shaking like that, especially after a breakfast feast of grubs and beetles. It's like watching a wonky rainbow wobbling in a storm, and makes my tummy roll like I've just flapped from the top of the tallest tree to the forest floor. But this patoo will keep his beak shut. Those flashy macaws can be so sensitive. It's just that this forest is full of many things that are so much more beautiful than Rodrigo's feathers. Look at all these leaves and flower petals below us. Do you notice how they shine and how the raindrops sparkle in the sunlight? Aren't they a delight? What about the swirly swarms of butterflies under the canopy? They do make tasty snacks, but I like to admire the way they flutter and fly too. Food that looks as good as it tastes. What can be better than that, eh? Just wait until you go beneath the leaves, One Eye. That's when you'll see those colorful creatures fluttering by like tiny fragments of a broken rainbow. Every week I see new colors and patterns. I wonder what kind of creature you are. A strange new forest animal, perhaps, or a brand new kind of plant. I'm not sure. You're green like the bushes and trees, but look at your skin. It's hard and tough like a caiman's tail, and smooth just like the turtle's belly. I am one puzzled Patu because you don't have any legs or wings or even a beak, and I haven't seen you walk or crawl or fly yet. In fact, all you ever do is sit there on a tree like a lazy sleeping sloth. Just not nearly as pretty, huh? Hello? Has the jaguar got your tongue? Do you even know that I'm here? You're not even looking at me, One Eye. All you do is look this way, then the other way. Hello? Wait, of course. I know why you can't see me. How foolish of me. I am Pedro the Patu, and Patus are masters of disguise. It's true. Clever birds like Pedro can vanish from the view in one flap of a hummingbird's wing, or sit in the same place for hours without even ever being seen. I'd like to see one of those flashy look at me macaws try to do that, huh? Let's face it, you could see Rodrigo with your eyes closed, and in this forest, if you're easy to see, you're an easy to catch meal for those sharp-toothed predators. Rodrigo lives up here in the tops of the tallest trees where it's windy and wet, and there are fewer hungry predators. Comprende? Macaws don't like being reminded that they're scaredy birds, though. So Rodrigo tells me that he stays up here only because he can crack the Brazil nuts with his beak and gobble them with his special tongue. Typical. Macaws like him think that everything about them is special. Personally, I think that it's far too wet and windy up here for a little bird like me to fly. It's dazzlingly hot too, probably because there's nothing above us to hide us from the sun up here in the tallest trees. Trees. Of course, that's why you're here, to look at all the wonderful, magnificent forest trees. Aren't they amazing? They seem to stretch on forever, following our beautiful rivers as far as the eye can see. You can't have a forest without trees. Without trees, where would birds like me sleep? Where could I perch? Out of the reach of the nasties creeping around the forest floor. Where would Rodrigo, get his tasty nuts from? And where would you be, One Eye? Hey, do you want to know what has been ruffling my feathers lately? Something dreadful is happening to our beautiful trees. They're vanishing. My forest friends and I think that there are some nasty tree stealers prowling the forest. Have you seen them, One Eye? 1 minute, a patu can be hopping from branch to branch, enjoying the dark and the quiet between the trees. The next, he's blinded by blazing sunlight and deafened by more noise than a troop of angry howler monkeys. It's true. Every day, more of our trees disappear. You don't think that those tree stealers want to take the entire forest, do you? Rodrigo sometimes says that he thinks that those tree stealers might not like us birds. No more trees means no more birds, he yaks. We all have to fly away. That's crazy talk, but my friends and I are scared, One Eye, so scared that birds like Rodrigo have been talking to those flyaway birds. You know, the ones who come here for the holidays when it's not so wet. Rodrigo says that he could fly away with them to a new home, far away from our lovely forest. Rodrigo can save the macaws, Pedro, he promises. Rodrigo will lead them somewhere new where there's no chopping and everybody is safe. But why would anyone want to leave a forest this beautiful? I ask him. We have everything we need right here, like fruits and nuts, and berries to eat, drinking water that falls from the clouds, plus thick, waxy leaves for the birds and monkeys and lizards to shelter beneath. It's the perfect place. Even the forest plants are good to us, One Eye. Many make us well when we're ill or injured. Last summer, I rubbed my poorly wing on a sprig of cordonculo leaves, and it stopped hurting in just a few quick flaps. I have so many friends here, too. Why would I want to say goodbye to Alice the agouti or my favorite sloth, Toll, and even Squeezy Winfrey, the tree bower. I think that I might even miss Francisco the falcon, at least when he's not trying to gobble patous for his lunch, eh? We're all really happy here. I just wish that I could convince Rodrigo to stay. He usually groans and says things like, "What's the use in being here if there are no more trees? It's better to fly away and find a new home to love, Pedro, maybe on a mountain or an island." Yesterday, I tried to tell him again that an island is no good for animals like the sloths, the agouti, or the snake. They don't have wings. How will they get to this new home? "What's your bright idea then?" he asked. "How will Pedro the Patus save this forest?" That's when I tapped my beak and told that noisy macaw all about C-A-R-E. Care? Not care, I told him. C-A-R-E. I think that Rodrigo's bird brain might be too small to understand, even though I explained to him really slowly that C-A-R-E is Creatures Against Rainforest Evacuation. He's just looked at me as if he thought that my egg might have fallen out of the nest before I hatched. "Rodrigo, we have to make a stand," I told him. "We have to stay and show those nasty tree stealers that this is our home, comprende? They can't just come here to chop chop. No trees means no world." I think that I might have frightened him, because that's when Rodrigo started to shake. "No world!" he shrieked, flapping and squawking as if lightning had nipped at his bottom. "No world!" I think that Rodrigo is too scared to listen anymore. But hey, perhaps if Pedro spent a little time showing you how everyone needs the forest, you might want to listen and help, eh? My friends tell me that they've seen one-eyes in different places, down below in the canopy and on the forest floor. In fact, they've spotted you in every layer of our beautiful forest. So I'll come looking for you and we can explore the forest together, okay? Great. Fantastic. Amazing. That's what we'll do. It's a plan. We'll team up and Pedro will introduce you to his wonderful home, because we C-A-R-E, right? Okay, so we have just done the first chapter, or the first day, in Daisy Field's Rainforest Journal, and we've also met some of the animals. And if you would like to continue to read more about the story, you can read it on your own. And I hope that you've enjoyed listening as I have read it to you now. Thank you so much that you joined me. I hope that it has been a fun time to just listen to a story and to really just see how all the topics that we have been doing in geography are linked in the story. You've got the water cycle, we've got rainforests, we've got deforestation. We're going to be looking at the climate, and the climate has already been spoken about in this book, and we've been looking at different types of animals in different areas. So I really hope this piqued your interest and you would like to continue to read the story and enjoy it. Bye for now.